Well, that's how, even in the 90s with, the shareware with like games like Doom, and people were getting that where you get the first episode and then you'd have to, pay a fee if you wanted to continue to go, which is sort of a similar thing. I mean, we get a little bit of that now, I guess, with the game demos. We get to play something and, and Xbox Live Arcade, we haven't talked about that, but I mean, that's very similar. We get the trial version, get to try that, and then people can kind of convert to the full game if they want to.
Actually, arcade specifically is driven by full games or just small games.
That's true, but right. But there's obviously, there is some trial, I guess, basis, right?
Well, every game on arcade has a trial mode, yes. Right. So for that, either $5 or $10 or in some cases $15 game.
I mean, because people talk about could it be that you could go to a store and get whatever disc you want, and then it has a trial version of the game, and then just as you play it, if you decide after the trial that you want to keep going, you hit A, and it charges your credit card, and then you get to play the rest of the game. I mean, that was an experiment. I think Quake tried that, where they had you could buy Quake at 7-Eleven for a couple of bucks, and you could play through the shareware version, and then instantly, if you liked it at the end, you could just hit a button and it would charge you. It would keep going.
Well, that's identical to the entire casual PC download market right now. The PopCap's pioneering essentially.
Right, you play for 30 minutes or something.
Right.
Yeah, you go.
So,
but see, I don't think iTunes is a good comparison because you buy the complete song.
Right.
And you could say, well, you're not buying the whole album, but the reason that iTunes works is most people don't want the whole album.
Yeah.
They want one song. So we're not buying 30 seconds of a song for 20 cents.
Right.
We're buying a whole song for 99 cents. I don't see how you can piece out a video game. You've got to give the consumer something that he feels like he got his money.
But some people, I think, say like they don't want, single player they might want to play, but if they're not big into Xbox Live or multiplayer, why are they paying all this extra money for this multiplayer version that they don't really want to play?
Well, let me just address, Michael, I think what needs to happen, when I say design the experience for it, it's not a game like we think of as a game today. Right. It's not Halo walking through. What if we had designed a game that was a series of very tiny Xbox Live games that are just linked?
WarioWare.
Right, I mean, there's ways we can do this that actually make sense.
It's about getting creative.
Yeah.
Well, some people are experimenting with that. With Half-Life, I think has done that with Half-Life. Episode 1, Episode 2, they're sort of doing this.
That's an expansion pack. I mean, I don't care what they call it. That's an expansion pack.
You're right. That's probably true. But I know like Alone in the Dark, they've talked about that, how they want to make it kind of episodic, and like every week there'd be sort of a new hour of the story or something like that, and we'll see if they pull that off.
Right. Well, to Michael's point, it's not. A lot of Telltale's tried it with Sam. A lot of people are trying this, but we're waiting for someone actually to make it work.
You're saying they have to change the paradigm of
right,
how you
and I think
the
problem is they're adhering too closely to the way we make regular games.
Right. You gotta start thinking.
And that's why you got to look to the East, I think, and the Asians though are being much more creative on how they're approaching this model.
So what do you think that means then? A few years down the road. I mean, you might not have the answer yet, but what do you think it's going to be? It's going to be a cheaper game, in the initial sort of purchase, and then microtransactions are going to be how you make more money ultimately? Or?
I wouldn't be surprised if you have both. I mean, I don't see why they can't coexist. If it's an existing game where you're buying pieces, or you can buy the entire one if you wanted to.
Right.
This is all about choice.
Right.
If you give people a choice, they'll pick what they want, and in a competitive marketplace, it'll get resolved. No one's going to force anybody to buy it if they don't want to buy it.
So do we think then consumers ultimately, are they going to be paying more for games going forward then? I mean, are we going to see that, obviously, something like Grand Theft Auto 3, you played it, you got, 50 hours for, $50. Now, is that, 5 years from now for a 50-hour experience, are you going to be spending, $200-$300 ultimately if you really like a game to play through it and get everything you want in it?
Definitely.
The average revenue kind of per user is going to go up?
I think so, but it might not necessarily be concentrated in a single game. Right. They may end up paying lots more of games, and actually overall spending more in gaming
a whole bunch of other
by doing
games.
Lots of more things across the board. It could just as easily turn out that way, or it could turn out there's huge blockbusters that are driving huge amounts of money. I could argue that World of Warcraft is that. It is just a huge blockbuster, driving huge amounts of money into a single product.
Subscribe. I mean, maybe you'll subscribe to Gears of War for a year and get like a whole bunch of episodic content.
What I find interesting though is the movie model is the one that I think the publishers are going to emulate.
Right.
And when I saw Little Miss Sunshine, it was $10.
Yeah.
The movie probably costs $10 million to make. When I see Lord of the Rings, it's $10 and it costs $150 million to make. So it doesn't matter what the cost of the game or the star power of the cast. They're getting $10 from me for a 2-hour experience. I don't think the publishers are going to leave that money on the table. I don't think you're going to see $5 games for small games that don't cost much to make. Cooking Mama on the DS is a perfect example. Brain Age is a perfect example. Those games cost $50,000 to make, and they're not discounted below 20. They're still $20. The guys who make those are making a lot of money. But if publishers aren't going to give them away, and I agree if you want to approach the masses and you want to really get millions of copies out, you would only do that if you thought you would have 1 million downloads, to buck a piece several times. And
I think what we have to be careful about is that if you go back, say, to the 1940s, and you look at the movie studios, and TV's just appearing, and the way the studios reacted to television's rise was it's not going to work. They're giving away product. They're giving that away, and they ended up ignoring it.
Right.
And you flash forward to just a few years ago, and Universal Studios gets purchased by NBC. It's possible that as long as you open it up, and what TV did was basically made more of a mass market audience, and people are effectively spending more on entertainment, in that case through their eyeballs as opposed to at retail, but they spent more time on entertainment, and it just expanded the market.
Yeah.
That's what we have to be wary about. Could that same set of circumstances occur now with lower price games? Can we get a mass market audience to join us if we offer them an alternative way to do it and still maintain the hardcore ecostructure? Ecosphere. Let it stay the same.
Way for them to sample, but a way to sort of protect what the hardcore does for the business. Well, lots of questions, and we'll be interested to see what the answers are in the years to come. Thanks, guys, for joining us. That's it for this week's bonus round, but make sure to tune in next time for an all-new discussion about the biggest issues in video games.
Bonus round.